Hello, Happy New Year. My name is Evelyn Jerry, and I am a mental health advocate. And I'm joined by Dr. Daniel Claiborne, who is a psychologist. And we have this amazing show called Mind to Mind, and we have been doing it for like a year now. So I'm really, really happy about that.
Uh-huh.
And this is our second year, and we are really, really excited about it. Tonight's topic is change, and it falls perfectly because we are now in the new year, and we know a lot of you have been writing resolutions on things you want to change, things that you didn't like last year. You're trying to change them this year, and you're figuring out new ways to do them. And that's the reason as to why we thought this topic is going to be amazing. And I'm going to give Dr. Daniel Claiborne a chance to say hi to you guys.
Yes, we're very excited into our second year now. Um, those of you who have watched before, we've talked about healthy relationships and a number of other topics, and I think they're all still available on the various platforms like YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook. Even the episodes and shows that we've done before can be accessed. And another thing I wanted to mention, just this last few weeks, I've put a lot of my essays on mental health into a book that can be ordered on Amazon if you have access to Amazon. And here's a picture of the book. I'll show it to you. Um, and on the front of the book is it's a logo that has partly a brain and partly a fingerprint. And that has to do with how unique everybody's personality actually is. The book is called Caring for the Mind. And you can, like I say, you can get that on Amazon. We'll be having another show. We had to skip last week because of technical difficulties, but we'll have our show today, and then we'll have one next week, and then it goes back to every other Wednesday. So one of the ones coming up will be on hypnosis. So if you have questions and interest in hypnosis, keep track
Yeah,
of that because it won't be our very next program, but probably would be the one right after that. So
yeah,
as Evelyn mentioned today, we're going to be talking about changing ourselves mainly, um,
hmm,
how to assess what we need to change and the steps to take, and some of the frustrations that we encounter when we try to make changes.
yeah,
Anyway, so we're glad to be back with you.
yeah. First of all, congratulations, Dr. Claiborne. And I think I want to share with the viewers some of the topics that we usually talk about. Dr. Daniel Claiborne has written articles about it, and I try as much as possible to share the articles. Some of
Mhm.
those articles are the ones that have been combined into this book. I would like to remind you guys, you can order this book on Amazon. And I think wherever you are in the world, you can be able to order this book online. And
Mhm.
let's dive into our topic today, change.
Mhm.
So, Dr. Claiborne, take it away.
Well, I just was thinking the other day when we're going into the new year, uh,
Mm-hmm.
different types of things we could try to change. And I made a little list of them: diet, um,
Mm-hmm.
relationships, our
Yeah.
job or our career,
Mm-hmm.
friends. Some friends are really good for us, and some friends are not so good for us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, our interests, um, and another one I call self care, maybe ways we can take care of ourselves better. Um, our spiritual life, we might want to make changes in our spiritual life in some way. We might want
Yeah.
to travel. We
Mm-hmm.
might want to be better at expressing gratitude to
Mm-hmm.
people that have been helpful to us in our lives. Um,
Yeah.
we might want to, in some way, change our personal style or our image. the image we
Mm-hmm.
show to the public. Um,
Yeah.
we might want to change our use of time, be more deliberate or effective about how we use our time. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we might want to get more or a different kind of education.
Yeah.
And then the other one I thought of was just the way we express ourselves, our personal expression, the way we do that. So there are many things we could change. And I
Mm-hmm.
think one of the principles is not to try too many all at
Yeah.
once and to somehow prioritize the
Mm-hmm.
various things that we might try to change. Some things are more in our control to change than other things.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just thought when I started thinking about it, there are quite a few things that we could make some changes in. Um,
Yeah.
Diet comes to mind at first, just because a lot of New Year's resolutions have to do with eating better. But all those
Yeah.
things are very worthy areas to think about modifying or changing. My,
Yeah. I think one of the things that I think I start with is changing my mindset.
your
Like I start to
mindset.
think about, yeah, mindset. Like there are some things that I maybe tried to do. Like I realized about myself last year and how I was thinking about certain things, and then like maybe, well, like some things just unfold themselves like in a positive way, and maybe I was thinking negatively, there was self-doubt. So now this year, one of the things that I'm trying to do is change my mindset and approach things on a more positive way, and also like reducing self-doubt and being more hopeful about life.
Mhm. I
Hmm.
think maybe we mentioned this on one of our previous programs, but there's an approach to what you're talking about called whether we live on offense or defense, kind of like a sports team. Living on offense means that we hope for things, we take chances, we try things. Um,
Hmm.
Living on defense means we just simply try not to let anything bad happen. And there's a lot of research on this showing that people who live on offense, where you try things, you take chances, you um, take risks, reasonable risks, and so on, are much more happy and much more healthy and mentally healthy and physically healthy. People who live in a way to try to keep bad things from happening, first of all, it doesn't work, and you can't really keep bad things from happening. And secondly,
Hmm.
it's a negative way to put your
Yeah.
energy, and so that's associated with less happiness and more trouble in relationships and poorer mental health. And so I
Yeah.
think your minds. I like the idea of a mindset, and to think
Hmm.
about what should our mindset be. And for different people, it can be different. But I think one of the elements, like Evelyn mentioned, would be there's something positive about it or
Hmm.
encouraging. Those would be a part of a good mindset, I think.
Yeah.
What is your
Um,
mindset this year?
I think you explained it really perfectly. I want to approach life on more on an offense than a defense, and I didn't know I had been doing that for a very long time. I had been living my life on a defense, like trying to protect myself from various things. I absolutely did not like change at all. Anything that comes and disrupts my comfort zone, I don't like. I
Mhm.
really did not like. So I think some of the things that were really changing last year is that, like I was approaching life more on an offense, and it was coming like I really had to fight myself. Like it's one of those things that you're really trying to change about yourself. And I won't lie and say that I was really perfect at it. No, I wasn't. struggled with the change, and like waking up every day and stop looking at myself like a victim, and trying to take charge and take responsibility of my life. And I can say that I saw a lot of progress. I achieved so much last year, like even things that I never thought I will ever achieve. And that is giving me a lot of confidence, even in how I am approaching this year. I am approaching this year with more responsibility, thinking, like hopeful, being hopeful about life, having a greater vision for myself. And yeah, and I'm really encouraging people to do that for themselves as well.
Uh-huh. I think
Mm.
one thing with our mindset that we need to make a choice between is between being comfortable or safe on the one hand, or being contented on the other. And they're not the same. Being
Yeah.
safe, ultimately being completely safe, we would have no
Mhm.
relationships. We would never take chances.
Mhm.
We would retreat into ourselves. But in being content really means to be a little bit uncomfortable at times and to try
Yeah.
things that may be a little new and different and challenging. So being comfortable and being contented are really, in a way, they sound the same, but they're very different. And I like the way you're orienting your mindset this year in terms of really achieving more and being more positive and forward, kind of forward thinking.
Yeah. And I remember feeling that it was the first time in a very long time that I actually felt content with
Hmm.
where I was at in my life. That's how I felt when the year was ending. And I remember I created this video of like how I spent my year, and I shared it on my social media. And going through those pictures and videos, it's just a recap of the things that I did, and the thing, like the things that I achieved, people I met. And it made me feel so content on where, like, the direction that I'm taking. I am not where I want to be, but I feel like I am on the right path to where I am going. And that means that I need to do more. And even when I didn't think that like I was doing the right thing, or even I didn't understand what I was doing, I saw the results, and that made me feel so confident and content with myself. I don't know that it makes sense.
There's one a psychiatrist recently that had a documentary program, and in the program, he said that there are three things that human beings cannot avoid in life. One is discomfort. There's going to be
Mhm.
discomfort at times. Another one is uncertainty. We can
Yeah.
never be really certain about a lot of things. And the third element was hard work. So
Oh, yeah.
our lives are going to have all three of these things, and they
Yeah.
cannot be avoided. So therefore, we need to turn them to our. We need to kind of take control of them. So make sure they're aimed at a good purpose. I thought
Yeah.
that was a very insightful
Yeah.
observation.
That was really insightful. And
Hmm.
it kind of summarizes all the things that I figured out last year. And
Uh-huh.
I think before you even figure out what you want to change in your life, you have to first of all reflect on what you did, what you experienced, so that you can know what are the things that you need to change in your life.
One
And
of the things along those lines, one of the things I think would help before you planned what you're going to change would be to just make a list of the mistakes that you made in the last
Mhm,
year, or things you
mhm,
regret, things you wish you had done differently, just to make a list of them and see if they have a pattern. Do they happen to be more about relationships? Or do they happen
mhm,
to be more about your job or your health? Or those mistakes that you regret making, is there a pattern that might
mhm,
guide you in terms of what you might want to try to change this year?
mhm.
And the other thing
Yeah.
to think about too is you can make certain changes this year, but then next year you can make more changes. You can only do so many things at once,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
so that's another thing to consider.
yeah, that is true. So, what are some of the mistakes uh, you think people make while, like for example, making certain changes in their lives?
Well, we've talked about toxic relationships some, that where we're around people that are not really good for us.
Mm-hmm.
I observe that a lot as a therapist. Um, Another one is staying with a job or a career that is not rewarding.
Yeah.
Another one is being a certain way as a parent that obviously isn't working with your
Mm-hmm.
children, or being a certain way as a spouse that is not working. It could be in any one of those areas we mentioned before,
Mm-hmm.
spiritual or diet or any. It could be in any of those areas. You can think of things that didn't work out, or
Mm-hmm.
things that now you look back and you wish you had done something differently.
Yeah. I think of also lack of patience, thinking that something like a certain some things take time to change.
Hmm.
They are not something you just like, switch on and off. So when things don't work out as fast as maybe you'd like, you find that people give up about it and maybe like they just resume to how they were doing things before.
One
And
strategy is, if you have a number of things you're thinking of changing, some are going to
mhm,
be easier than others. And so one
yeah.
strategy is to pick one or two of the easiest ones and do those
Mhm,
changes first. And that builds up some confidence that then we can
yeah.
use to tackle the ones that are more complicated.
Hmm. Yeah. I think that's a good idea.
Mm.
So you're continuously building confidence based on you start with the things that you are confident about and things that are going to be easier for you. And then you build your confidence as you continue changing until you handle now the tough ones.
Mhm. And another thing to do along the way is to not to to not focus on your happiness until you get all of your goals met. That's really not a good way to do it. Um, you can't accomplish everything this year, and so even though
Mhm,
you're working at things and you haven't gotten very far on them, that you're
mhm,
trying to change, but still allow for fun, allow for enjoyment, allow for some
mhm.
moments of relaxation, give yourself a break, and that'll help you. This is really more like a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not a quick
Yeah.
race. It's more like a long race. So we have to pace ourselves and reward
Yeah.
ourselves along the way for small gains, and not expect too much too soon.
I think that's really that's a good point that I didn't think about. And I think that's a good reminder because you can be so focused on achieving certain goals that you end up giving yourself a burnout, which ends up taking you back.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, I think
And
one
I
of
think, oh, go ahead.
no, you go ahead. It's okay.
Oh, I was just thinking to remind people that we did have an outline. Did you put an outline
Yeah,
online
yeah,
so
an
you can see
outline.
some of our points? And one
Mhm.
of the things we wanted to cover in our outline is, what are some of the practical steps to take when you've decided on changing something? And it's in our outline, and I'll just read them and we can then go back and talk about them. Um,
Mhm.
Setting realistic goals for whatever the
Mhm.
area is we're trying to change, identifying specific steps that you might take, identifying some times to look back and review it. How's it going?
Mhm.
Um, Keeping a log in some way or other of your progress,
Yeah.
um, And then when you make a certain amount of progress, even if it's small, celebrating it in some way, some small way maybe. And then the last one is it's very helpful in making changes to let someone else know what you're doing and maybe team up with them. And maybe they're working on something similar or maybe even something different, but you get together, let's say once a week or every other week or whatever. You stay in touch and you help monitor each other's progress. This has
Yeah.
been shown to be very effective in losing weight, for example, and I think other
Mm.
changes too, where you have a friend or a buddy or a small group of people and you're all working on changing something and you meet periodically. It's kind of like a way of motivating everybody to keep going and giving support that each other. It's not just doing it in isolation by ourselves.
Mm.
So those are some of the steps that they're all important. Um, but having realistic goals is really the first one, because if you set up a goal that's not realistic, like if I wanted to lose 100 pounds in the next 3 months, well, that's not possible.
Mm.
So, or if I wanted to get rid of all of my friends and replace them with a whole new set of friends, well, that's not unrealistic. And it sounds funny, but I've had many clients over the years that have really gotten very frustrated because they're not making progress on something they wanted to change. And when it comes out and they describe it, well, it was unrealistic from the beginning. Um,
Yeah.
changing their whole personality, for example, or being,
Yeah.
they've been very unhappy in a very bad relationship, but they think to themselves, next year I'm going to be happy. Well,
Mm.
you can't do that all at once. So, yeah, being realistic in our goals is really a good first step.
Yeah.
And
That is
that's
so
you
true.
can also, when you have a few goals, you can tell that to a friend and see if they think it's realistic. Sometimes we can't see it as clearly as a friend
Yeah.
or a partner.
Yeah, that is so true. And also, I think one of the ways to create realistic goals is checking what progress did you make last year, and maybe add a few, just a few more milestones. Like, don't add like 10 times the milestone that you made last year.
Hmm.
Add like two or three. At least that way you have a higher probability of achieving that goal than you adding 10 times what you achieved last year.
Hmm. One of the things we stress in parenting now is
Mm-hmm.
to when kids are performing things in school or in sports or whatever, we try to reward them for their effort. You know, we point out how hard they tried, and we emphasize that more than the results. So it's tempting to say, "Oh, you scored 3 goals, good for you." But instead of emphasizing the results, we try to emphasize the effort. So we tell our child, "I'm really proud of how hard you tried today." And that's
Yeah.
actually a good guideline for us adults to give ourselves credit for trying, not so
Yeah.
much credit for the outcome, because the
Mm,
outcome is something we don't have complete control over.
yeah.
But the effort we do have control over. That's something we can decide to do. So I've had many clients over the years that were disappointed because they didn't really achieve the outcome they wanted, even though they tried really hard. And I
Hmm.
thought, they should be more happy with the fact that they tried hard and that they really gave it a good effort. So that's something that's made a good impression on me.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I think last year, one of the things I noticed about myself was that I used to I used to measure, I used to notice when I made a stride that I wasn't willing or unable to do before. Like, for example, I may not have achieved, like, maybe the weight that I wanted to weigh by the end of the year, but I was proud of myself for being consistent, for going to the gym every week for the past 3 months.
Um,
Does that make sense?
that's
And
exactly right.
yeah, or the discipline that it took me to wake up every morning and work 8 hours a day for the past week, because I'm an entrepreneur and I do a lot of different things. So it's hard when you don't have like someone clocking you in and out of work for you to work consistently. And instead of looking at what did I achieve, like not necessarily checking just what you achieved that week, also checking the different changes you're making and the growth that you're making as an individual, being able to wake up every single morning, have a morning routine, read a book every day, like that discipline of following through your schedule. Like I used to reward myself for the milestone, the small milestones that I made as an individual, and also it's proving to me that I am capable of waking up every morning to go to the gym, or disciplined enough to work certain hours a day. And even when I'm not able to do it, I remember that I did it yesterday, so I'll be able to do it tomorrow.
Uh, yeah, you're
Yeah,
really keeping an eye on your level of confidence, and
yeah,
you're not measuring your self worth or your success by the end product, or how many
mhm,
pounds you've lost or not, but it's more what you did to lose the pounds, what the going
yeah,
to the gym, or um, yeah, the process. You're emphasizing having a healthy process, not so much the outcomes. Focusing on too
yeah.
much
And
on
even
outcomes is tricky.
yeah, sorry. And even the willingness to try, because I remember last year when I was at the gym, one of the compliments I got from my gym instructor was that things are hard for you. Like, to be honest, there are certain workouts that are really tough for me. But the one thing he loved about me was the fact that no matter how hard it was, and no matter how hard it was for me to achieve it, I was willing to try and try and try until I was able to
Hmm.
do it. And I kept on trying, and every single day there was progress. Like maybe I wasn't able to jump in a certain way, and then today, and I would try and try and try until maybe by the end of the week I was able to do it. Like it's just the consistency of like not expecting for me to have like a quick change on things that I'm able to do from the beginning to the end, but it's the consistency and the willingness to try. And
Right.
yeah.
Another area that may be related to this too is you may look at the various things in your life when you're trying to set your goals. And one thing you may notice is that your life is not balanced the way you would like it to be. So, in other
Yeah.
words, relationships and work and diet and self care, it may not be just one of those things, but it may be that you're doing something with all of those things, but you're not satisfied with the balance and you'd like to
Mhm.
realign that. And so maybe
Yeah.
spend less time trying to make new friends and more time being physically fit. Or you
Mm,
might want to just readjust the balance because we're all
mm,
trying to do many things in life. And
yeah.
the balance sometimes gets out of whack and needs to be
Yeah.
readjusted.
Yeah. And I think that's the whole point of our topic today, change. Don't be too loyal to your plans. You can write resolutions and you can have a vision and you can have strategy for this year, and you can have like a day-to-day plan for what you want to do every single day. But some things are going to change, like your circumstances may change, and that will mean you adjusting your plans as you go along. Don't be too loyal to your plans that you forget what the goal is,
Mhm.
what the plan is. So if it means that you need to adjust your plans to achieve your goal. Be loyal to your goal, but not the plans that you have made. I hope
Yeah,
it
I think
makes
another
sense.
way of saying that too would be your goals should be the effort you're putting into something. It shouldn't really
Mhm.
be the ultimate thing you will achieve. You may have that in mind, but
Yeah.
your goal should be what you do to get toward the goal every day or every week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another thing to keep in mind is there's a difference between regret and guilt. You know, we if you let's say you're not making progress or you're not putting in the effort you felt you should and you don't feel good about it, it's okay to regret that. You know, regret
Mhm.
means we admit that there's something we would do differently if we could do it over again. And but guilt is more than that. It's not just regret, but it's saying that I'm a bad person because I've
Mhm.
done something wrong or I haven't achieved my goals. And regret really, first of all, isn't really warranted. Um, and secondly, it doesn't energize us. You know, regret energizes us to do better, but guilt actually takes energy away and makes us feel hopeless and bad. And so it sounds like maybe just a difference in terms, but I think it's really a very important difference. If you find yourself feeling guilty because you aren't
Mhm.
making progress on one of your goals, you need to shift that to just being regretful and thinking, gosh,
Yeah.
so far I'm not happy with my performance, so I'm going to change it. I'm going to make some changes. But guilt
Mhm.
is not helpful. But
Yeah.
we all feel it, and we have to really watch that and do our best to avoid it if we can. Does that make sense to you, Evelyn? I mean,
Yes, yes, it really does. And I have experienced it, and that's why nowadays I focus more on what did I learn from that situation,
uh-huh.
and also accepting the fact that I'm human. I will make mistakes, and it's not it shouldn't be a surprise that you made a mistake. Sometimes I feel like I don't have a good I feel like I don't have a good what is it called, relationship with failure. So if for example I'm caught in a situation where maybe I failed, I I get so I don't know whether it's called defensive, and I'm trying to figure out like how could I have made that mistake? There's absolutely no way I made that mistake, and I will try and like explain myself out of the situation, and
Yeah.
instead of just saying it as, yeah, it's okay, I made that mistake and it's adjustable, it's not the end of my life. It means I have time to actually um go back, figure out where it is that the mistake came, and learn from it and readjust my move to something different. And it's just human nature
I
to
think that's
not.
really very well put. We want to,
Yeah.
it's okay to be disappointed in
Yeah.
ourselves, but not to be overly critical and
Yeah.
judgmental. So disappointed is okay. Judgmental and guilt, those are not helpful
Mhm.
and not warranted. So that's sometimes it's hard to tell the difference, but I think it's really important.
Yeah. And I think those are some of the things that we need to remember, because sometimes you will make a move thinking that you're making a good move for you, and you find out that it was actually something that's going to take you like 10 steps back. And sometimes such situations make you feel like giving up, but
Uh-huh.
that is when you can take a step back, um heal heal from the disappointment, then step by step figure out where did things go wrong and how do you prevent yourself from making the same mistake again. Because now when people give up on certain things, and the people will completely dismiss the whole thing and just give up and not even look through the mistake. But you not looking through the mistakes, it means that even if you try something different, you there's a high probability of you repeating the same thing. And instead of ignoring the problem, just go back step by step, patiently trying to figure out where did you go wrong and how do you prevent yourself from making the same mistake again.
I think what you're saying, Evelyn, is keep in mind your own responsibility and your own capability of reviewing yourself and changing something if you want to.
Mhm.
You know, one thing that we might mention too is it's important to pick good role models. You know, we all have, you know, parents or adults around us as we grow up, and some of them are much better role models than others in terms of staying positive, like Evelyn is talking about. And but now that we're adults, we can pick our role models. We're not just stuck with the ones we might have had as children. We can look around us and see people who we think are handling their lives in a very healthy, productive kind of way. And we can watch them and learn from them and be
Yeah.
inspired by them to do some things the way they're doing it. And so we have the chance to actually pick our role models that we didn't really have as children. Sometimes we're lucky as children to have excellent role models, but sometimes we don't. But anyway,
Yeah.
as adults, we can look around, and I've really gained a lot over the years by noticing certain people around me that are handling things in a really good, healthy way, which whether it's a health issue or a family crisis or a career dilemma or
Mhm.
some whatever the problem may be. There are some people that are really approaching it in a very mature, healthy way, and it's good for me to watch them and learn from them.
Mhm. Yeah, that is really important. And now that we live in a world of um, like a digital era, so it means that if you don't know someone physically, you could know someone in
Evelyn, Evelyn, let me
trade.
interrupt. Your voice is breaking up, and this. Could you go back and say that again?
Okay, okay. I'm
It's
saying
still
that
it's still breaking up.
um, I'm not
It
sure
was
what changed.
yeah. I don't know. It was fine before. Go ahead.
Okay, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's much better.
Okay. I'm saying that we're living in a digital era where even if you don't have role models physically, people you know personally, you can get role models online, on social media, on YouTube, people from all over the world. You can choose the kind of content that you listen to, and you can get your role models by viewing people online that you think are a good role model to you.
You know, a famous person that I think is a good role model is the Dalai Lama.
Mhm.
You know, I
Oh
really
yeah.
admire his books and the interviews that I've seen, and he focuses on joy and bringing joy
Mm,
into the world and on accomplishing what you can in terms of
yeah.
being hopeful and joyful. See, he's a role model that I've really appreciated.
Yeah. I've also had a few. There are several people who have really changed my thinking, my mindset. Um, I I can mention there's Bishop R.C. Blakes. There's he spoke a lot about the unconscious what is it called? I've forgotten, but he was talking more about the how your subconscious mind um has been has been influenced by so many people in your life, and how that has influenced who you are and how you behave.
Hmm.
I learned a lot about the subconscious mind from him.
Hmm.
There are several people even in our youth who are discussing about the daily issues that we are going through, and I think those are good role models. There's something I'd like to share. When you're watching all this content online, you see how you eat a piece of bone meat. You eat the bone, and you eat the meat and you throw away the bone. You have to be careful about how you are feeding yourself content. Take what is important to you and discard the rest of it. Don't take everything you're being told at face value and that is it. Take what is important, what you think is influential to your life, and the rest of it, leave it there. Because unfortunately, you find that people will go online, they'll listen to content, they'll listen to what people are saying, and they follow step by step everything these people are saying, and see them as though they are not human, that they don't make mistakes. They will make mistakes. Even us here in this program, we might say something that might influence you in a negative way. We are human beings. We might say things that are not correct. So take what is important to you and leave what is not
I think
there.
that's a really good point. All these years when I've recommended self-help books to my clients, every single time I tell them, just read through the book and find the parts that fit you, and
Yeah.
let the rest go, just like Evelyn is saying. That's a very good point. Or in a program like ours, or something you see on YouTube, there may be elements that really are helpful and the rest doesn't fit or isn't appropriate. And so give yourself permission to be you're the customer, you're the consumer.
Yeah.
So you pick the parts that are valuable to you at the very moment in your life where you are right now. Some other
Yeah.
part might be valuable later, but this is the part for right now. That's a very good
Yeah.
point, Evelyn.
Yeah. Thank you. I felt like it was important for me to share that, because sometimes people view some of these videos like a life manual,
Mhm.
and you might apply some of the things that we're telling you in places that don't make sense, and it won't work. And then you will think that this person is being dishonest and all that, but you need to be able to be careful. You need to be careful about how you also interpret some of these messages,
Right.
so that it doesn't interfere with your life.
Right. Now that's really, really good. Another thing we might want to mention is we call it the shadow. Every person has a shadow, which means a part of them that tends to operate against their own best interests. Maybe it's
Mhm.
shyness, or maybe it's some kind of lack of confidence, or it could be anything, or a
Mhm.
tendency to gamble or to take too many chances. It could be any element of our personality that is not helping us, and we can't get rid of that part. Our goal is to contain that part and identify it. We know what it is. We can see if it crops up. It's much more likely to happen to come into play with our in our activities if we're tired or if we're sick. When our
Yeah.
defenses are down, this shadow part of our personality, usually it's a form of insecurity or a need for power, or something like
Mhm.
that, that
Yeah.
and we give it a name. It's important to give it a name. Like you can call it my shadow, or you can call it pride, or you can call it um, insecurity, or you give it a name so you have a label. And when you notice it coming up, to take a step back, slow down, back off of a situation, maybe talk to somebody else, get your perspective back, because our
Mhm.
lives don't have to be controlled or dominated by the shadow part, but we can't get rid of it either. It's always there. It's been a
Mhm.
part of us. It's comes in every once in a while, and we just have to get really good at identifying it quickly, slowing down, stopping what we're doing, not making any major decisions based on the shadow. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure some people think we should try to get rid of our shadow, this part of us that's self-defeating, and you can minimize it and almost get rid of it probably, but not really permanently. It's there probably from childhood. Um,
Yeah.
some of it may even be genetic. I mean, each of us, has certain genetic qualities, whether it's being
Mhm.
outgoing or introverted or, so it comes from several different places, but it's better to think of it as something we need to control rather than something we need to abolish. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And I think especially like when we are changing various parts of our lives, a lot about us is tested, and a lot of your weaknesses will come out during these phases. And I think that's what
Mhm,
Dr. Claiborne is talking about.
mhm.
And when it does, you have to be brave enough to fight yourself. You might experience imposter syndrome where you think that you're you're too small for that big dream, or self-doubt comes in and you start fighting yourself not to continue or not to take a certain opportunity that comes up. And that's when it's really important for you to be self-aware about what is happening to you as the changes are coming up or opportunities are coming up in your life. And
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I think that's
I think
right.
the things I wanted to share last time, I think I shared this with you, Dr.
Okay.
Claiborne,
Before
is
before that, Evelyn, let me just add one thing to this discussion. You can
okay.
actually, when your shadow, that part of yourself that's self-defeating, crops up
Mhm.
and comes into the picture, you can actually use that as a signal to you that something isn't going right. Because if it were
Mhm.
going right, the shadow wouldn't be able to come in. And so
Yeah.
you can actually use noticing this shadow part of yourself coming in as a warning, a little bit of like a warning light that slow
Yeah.
down. It may be saying, be careful, slow down, uh, be cautious. So in a certain way, it's helpful if you look
Yeah.
at it that way. Sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to add that part.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point. Um, last week I was sharing with you how I was going through some philosophy book.
Okay, Evelyn, let me interrupt. I mean, your voice is really breaking up right now. Can you maybe
Okay. Okay.
start over?
All right. I was saying last week I shared with you about a book I was reading about philosophy. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and I read a little bit about change, and one of the things that came up is that the universe is, was, will always be. It means that the world keep on changing, and it has been changing for the rest for even previously, and it's something that is constantly growing. So the world will never be constant. So it means that change is inevitable, and you will have to conform or change yourself as you go. As you grow, you become a different person, you become better, you improve as you go on. And that is something that is constant in your life. And it's important to keep on reminding yourself that you can't be constant in the same position in a world that is changing. The world has been revolving. There has been revolution happening for a very long time, and the way things were before is not the way they are right now, and the next 10 years is going to be different. Next year things might be different, even with the AI, how things are changing, how even people are doing business. So you have to keep changing and just embrace the change. Don't be rigid about where you are at in your life right now.
I think that's right. Sort of another idea along with that is to think of your life, your whole life, as like a work of art or like a movie maybe. And so as we move through it, we're
Yeah.
changing and growing, and we're actually creating a work of art. Every day we either add something to it, or we take something away from it, or we modify something about it, or we repair a mistake from before and we move on. And then when we die, the work of art is completed. And so,
Yeah.
or the movie is that it's finished. And so therefore the whole thing exists. Um, it isn't just any one moment. And as we go through it, there are disappointing moments. We can recover from them and move on. But this is an idea I've really enjoyed having, that every day I have a new chance to enhance this work of art that I'm creating, and to try to make
Yeah.
it more like I really want it to be, and like I want people to remember. And I just think that's a very healthy way to look at it.
Yeah. And always remember that um, if you don't achieve something today, tomorrow is a new day and it's a new chance for you to try again.
Hmm.
So yeah, always remind yourself that you may you may not achieve it today, you may not achieve it tomorrow, and you might even take like a whole year before you achieve it, but always measure your progress and celebrate your small wins. And I think that's has been constant throughout this program today.
And in a way, the only thing we really do have control over, partly partial control, is today. We don't have any
Yeah,
control over the past, and we hope
yeah,
we're going to have some control over the future, but we don't know exactly what the future will bring. So in a
mm-hmm,
way, focusing on day to day to day is the best policy. That's the part we have control over. And the other idea to keep in mind is our success or disappointment is going to be affected by the choices we make. What do we choose to do? What do we choose to try? Not the outcomes, but what the efforts. What effort do we choose today? Is it
yeah,
working on our marriage? Is it working on our physical fitness? What is it that I choose to emphasize today? And that's really
mm,
all we have control over,
yeah,
is the present.
yeah, yeah. This has been really amazing.
Yes, it's
Yeah,
relevant to all of us. I mean,
mm,
some of our topics only are relevant to some people, like maybe depression or
yeah,
anxiety. But this is a
yeah,
topic that we all are confronting today. Is after
yeah,
our program is over today, for the rest of today, change and being making good choices is relevant to every person.
yeah. And I think what you've just said has made so much sense to me, since I work a lot in the events industry. And one of the things that we joke about is that everything that can go wrong will go wrong on that day. It doesn't matter how many things you plan. It doesn't matter, like if you had a plan for every single thing, everything that could go wrong will go wrong, because you're dealing with people, you're working with people, and people respond differently. So I've had situations where I have hardly slept, or even slept for like 2 hours, because maybe someone who you have been planning with for the past 3 months to bring chairs to an event decides that they are not gonna bring them on time, or you will have to, or even bail on you last minute, and you have to look for someone else. So I kind of look at life like that now, where you may have a plan, but don't be too loyal to it to a point where you you cripple yourself with disappointment. You're not able to, face life head on when things go wrong. So always know that something might go wrong. That you, like what Dr. Claiborne said, there are things that are constant in your life. Uncertainty is one of them. So you may have a plan. Things might go according to plan, but if they don't, take it and move forward and figure out a way to solve that problem and move forward.
I
Yeah.
think you'll notice that people who are the healthiest and happiest do exactly what Evelyn is saying. They do have plans and goals and effort that they're going to make, but when something goes wrong outside of their control, they're very philosophical about it, and they just step back, make a different plan, and not take it personally or feel that there's something inadequate about them that allowed this thing to go wrong. Some things
Yeah.
are just out of our control. Actions of other
Mm.
people, the weather, our health in certain ways, politics. There's many, many things that are outside of our control.
Yeah.
This has been a really good program, Evelyn.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed, even I've also learned so much. And it's so funny, like I think this week I'm working on my strategic plan for the year, and I am being more intentional, and I'm actually facing the world in an offensive way, not from a defensive point of view. And some of the things that I have put on my vision this year, some of it seems like huge, but I have proof from last year that I can do this, and I am also realistic to the point that I may not achieve everything I've written down, but even if I get a quarter portion of what I have written down, I will still be okay with it because I have been confident, I have tried, I have faced the world, and that is enough progress and enough achievement for me.
I
And
think
I want,
that's really good to emphasize that our goals should be the effort we're intending to make.
yeah,
We have certain thing we hope to achieve, but that is partly due to our effort, but it can also be affected by other things. But our goal
yeah,
should be to put in the right effort um, as we move towards these goals. Anyway, that's really a good point. Well,
yeah,
thanks everybody for watching.
yeah. Thank you so
I really
much for
appreciate it.
watching.
If you ever have
Yeah.
questions or comments or suggestions for future programs, communicate them to Evelyn, and
Mhm.
we will definitely take that under consideration.
Yeah. And we are looking for a program to do. Which topics would you like us to talk about next week?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes. In a couple of weeks, we'll have, or a couple of programs, we'll have one on hypnosis. But other than that, we're open to new ideas from you
Yeah.
all. So please let us know.
Mhm. Thank you so much, Dr. Claiborne. This has been amazing, and I
Well,
want to
thank you,
wish you
Evelyn.
a good week ahead.
You too. Have a
All
good
right.
start to the new year.
You too. Bye bye. Bye, guys.